Now, Danny, this site was not built by Herod the Great, but it was an integral part, I'd imagine, of daily life for the rebels who camped out here and were fleeing Rome.
Yes, the rebels took over part of the wall of the site, which we think was originally used as a stable, and added benches that enable a lot of people to sit together. How do you say to sit together or to convene in Greek? Synagogue. Synagogue.
A synagogue.
This is a synagogue. This is one of the earliest synagogues in Jewish history. This is where the Jewish rebels sat, convened, read the Torah. We know so because we found 2 fragments in the room here in the back. And maybe this is the place where the Jewish rebels decided to make this critical decision of committing suicide. They create purity ritual baths, mikvehs. We found purity stone vessels like the ones mentioned in the Gospel of John, chapter 2. And to the very last minute, they're trying to preserve their specific Jewish lifestyle.
Well, Danny, we're overlooking a very fateful place for the rebels here at Masada. The Roman military machine builds a siege engine to come against this fortress. Tell us what happened.
Here is the ramp. You can see it to this day, which is man-made. We found wooden beams beneath it, proving that it was all designed with a lot of labor, never reaching the top, but enough to put a tower over it, and at the top a battering ram pounding against the wall, right here.
Constantly.
Yes, and this is the only part where the wall of Masada is missing. You can imagine the defenders seeing all of this, and when it falls down, the Romans decide to retreat and make the final conquest the next morning.
So this was highly effective, this battering ram, it seems. And I can only imagine, Danny, there's women, there's children up here. The intimidation factor of that battering ram, just the sight of it and the noise of it, the constant pounding, as you said.
And knowing what's to follow.
Yeah, and what was to follow, as we said earlier, the Romans were very unforgiving.
Oh yeah.
And they planned to come up here, and remember, these guys were probably thirsty, frustrated, hot, hungry, and they wanted to wreak vengeance on the Jews up here on Masada.
Yeah, the guys here knew the consequences are going to be horrific. But they had another night. The final blow is going to be the next day. And what can they really do? Fight till the bitter end? Give up? Their leader, assembling all the men, decided for everyone, let us die a noble death.
Eleazar
ben Yair was his name according to Josephus. Let us die when it is still in our hands instead of subduing to the Romans. And the followers followed.
And the decision was?
The decision was to commit suicide. The few men chose for everyone else. Josephus tells us that every person went to his own family and caressing them, he performed the deed. Okay? He killed his own wife and children. And then 10 people were chosen to kill all the others, and one of them was chosen by Lot to kill the others. So technically only one person committed suicide, which he did according to Josephus in the northern palace complex of Herod. And Yigael Yadin in the 1960s finds in the northern palace complex evidence of a male, a female, and a child, which he says, can we disprove the possibility maybe this is the last family of Masada?
So a massive suicide pact of the defenders here at Masada, nearly 1,000 people. Yes. In a mass suicide, rather than to submit to the Romans. And as you said, Danny, it would have been mass slaughter of the males, rape, enslavement of the women, of the children.
What would you do? You know?
What would we do? I have a wife, I have 2 little girls myself. But then there's another school of thought that says where there's life, there's hope.
Yeah.
But we weren't here. And talk about a tough decision. Well, Danny, the Roman siege of Masada, the defeat of the rebels, was not the end of the story for this legendary desert fortress. Tell us what came next.
Well, the Romans had here a force station for a while, but then they left the place. It was abandoned for quite some time, and around the 5th century, Christian monks discovered the place, and they add one single building, a church facing the east. Its architecture is also different from what we've seen from Herodian times. And we don't know for how long they stayed here, but with the Muslim takeover, it's abandoned again. And this time, even the location of Masada is forgotten. No one knew where it was until 1838, when an American scholar views it from the distance and suggests this is Masada.
So for probably 1,000 years, if not more, this place was abandoned and lie dormant. No one knew it was here, the legendary Masada.
And then in the 1920s, 30s, the Zionist movement adopts the site. Especially famous is the figure of Shmariau Gutman. He's an educator. He brings youth groups up to the top, and he tells them about the story of Masada and the rebels that had to commit suicide. And the youth groups would shout against the cliffs, "Masada is not gonna fall again," with the echo resonating with the sound. And for the Zionist movement, this is a very, very significant site. This is a site that shows where Jews fought for freedom till the very last minute. Okay, and this is what we're trying to form now again, a place for asylum for Jews from all over the world. So Jews don't have to take anything from anyone anymore. And you know what? This is the state of mind of Israel to this day. We have formed the state so Jews can feel secured and determine their fate after centuries of persecutions, of pogroms, of Holocaust. This is a very meaningful site in symbolizing what the state of Israel is for us today. And if you ever see F-16s flying above our heads towards the east, okay, with bombs to neutralize an Iranian nuclear threat, the pilots also have in the back of their minds the symbol of the site. Masada is not going to fall again.
The people of Israel live, Danny, never to be uprooted again, and fulfilling Bible prophecy to boot. Danny the Digger, thank you so much, my friend.
My pleasure.
It has been amazing here on Masada. We'll do it here again somewhere in the land of Israel. Coming up, some final thoughts after the break from the one and only Fortress Masada. It's the Watchman. It's Christians United for Israel, only right here on TBN. Stick around.